Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks and plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your Minifigure host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? Episode 230. Today, we have a few different things to discuss. But first of all, how are y'all doing? Good? Great? Amazing? Not good? Horrible? Hopefully, you're doing well. With that in mind, today we're going to talk about, finally, I have been waiting, and I teased it, and I was fully expecting it to be here well over a week ago, probably close to 2 weeks ago. The new Lego Ninjago Garmadon comic book. Oh, my goodness, it's beautiful. There are so many other descriptors for this, but my goodness, it's beautiful. So we're going to talk about that. And I've got a personal kind of connection story that I want to share with you guys that involves Lego that I actually heard about while I was out of town at my sister's wedding a few weeks ago that really, like, I get choked up over some things. Not very much. I just kind of have a hard shell on the outside. Anything with animals makes me cry, right? Watching a puppy play with the ball. Oh my God. But this was a little bit deeper than that. Not even a little. That was way deeper than that. And we'll get into it. I don't want to spoil it. We'll get into it. So the Garmadon comic book series, right? This new collaboration that Lego is doing, and it looks really good. So the first issue is currently available to all you folks out there. And there's a number of different covers, not colors. Obviously, there'd be different colors on the covers. But it is available in different covers. And I have two of them here with me. They're the exact same episode 1 or comic book number 1, whatever you want to call it. They are the exact same story. But the cover artwork is incredible. So the first one that I have in my hand has the Great Devourer and Garmadon. Garmadon with his forearms, his big old hat, and it says Garmadon across the front. The Great Devourer looks incredible here. If the Great Devourer could have been put into this mold in the actual show, I probably would have died. This looks amazing. Now, the Great Devourer is not anywhere in this story, none whatsoever, other than a minor mention, which if you are a Ninjago fan, you already know. If you're not, we'll chat here in a moment. But it is a beautiful cover piece. And then on the rear side, you have Garmadon in his more storybook character phase here, where he's got his glowing eyes. He doesn't have his hat on, but he does have just his hair, right? And that's it. Now, the second one, some people are going to kind of get this reference here, at least to me. In my opinion, this is what it resembles to me. So same comic book, same exact story. The rear cover is the exact same. The front cover, the only difference is obviously the artwork. And this one has a very in-tight shot of Garmadon from about just above belly button up. You can see half of his face. His eyes are covered, and he has a hat over top, with his hand kind of like pulling down the brim of like a hat, okay? Kind of like the hat that Wu wears. It makes you wonder, like, what is going on? For some reason, this screams Garmadon / Oni Titan to me from season 9 / season 8, I guess at the very last episode. That's what this screams to me. I absolutely love it. Now, on the inside, you have a pretty lengthy story. When I say lengthy, it's not anything like, you need an hour to read. 10 minutes if you're lucky, maybe 15 minutes if you really want to digest everything. But you go through the story, and it basically just starts off saying, this is Lord Garmadon. He wasn't always a bad guy, and it gives you a little bit of a backstory and stuff like that. And that leads me to a point that I want to get to here in a little bit. Anyway, so it goes away from that, and then it breaks into the story with him sleeping in a forest, and he's hearing these voices and stuff like that, and then he's in a fight. He's in a fight with another Garmadon, a Garmadon with a hat on. He doesn't have his hat on, and they're fighting. And he tells him that he was a failure as a father to Lloyd, and a failure as a husband to Misako, and a failure as a brother to Wu. And then he thought he had defeated the other Garmadon, and then he wakes up. It was a dream. And then it sets into Garmadon Chapter 1, Two Moon Village. And that's where the story actually really kind of takes off. When I say takes off, it's a slow build. So he's walking through the forest, he's like, I'm hungry, I got to get something to eat. And then he happens upon these two individuals that are in the forest, and they are going against a bear. There's a bear that is there, and they are trying to, not defeat the bear, but they're on a mission to do something, and the bear just crosses paths with them. They have something in their pots. Anyway, so Garmadon shows up, he saves the day, gets the bear to go away, semi, and then the other two kind of jump in as well. Then Garmadon chops down a tree, and the bear is knocked down and then runs away screaming, crying, yipe, yipe, yipe. Okay. So then he has some interaction with these two townspeople, these two individuals that are from a village nearby, which you'll find out further into the comic book. And the funny thing to me is this. You get a different sense of Garmadon as he's not in his form, he's not a human. And I don't know that any Lego characters are human, but we're going to call him human. And he's a version of human here. Anyway, so they make off towards their village, and they have these leaves, these weird tea leaves. You've got some brothers that have this little tea factory type thing here, and they welcome Garmadon in, and they give him, so they take the leaves here and they make a tea with it. And they say, oh, the tea is good for you. So he drinks it and his powers come back because he had lost his powers. So I don't know how, I don't know why, but his powers are gone. But they come back with a vengeance, and he destroys a wall. And they're like, oh, no, what are we going to do? Not so much. But they come up with this idea. So the Grim Willow Woods, where they get these leaves from, is guarded by Kuma, or Kuma, Kuma, a bear, probably the bear, right? So it's guarded by this bear, and they're afraid to go there. They think that we took too many leaves last time and it caused problems, all kinds of different things. And so they tell Garmadon, hey, look, you can use this tea, because for us humans, all it does is it heals our wounds faster, which is great, because one of the characters had an injury, and they said, well, otherworldly things like dragons and ghosts and jinns and yourself. So we have a reference to Moro from season 5, Nautican Jin from season 6. We have a reference to, you could say Firstborn. It looks like Firstborn. And then obviously Garmadon, they're like, hey, the two brothers are like, hey, we could use him and get rid of the bear. And then he drinks too much and Ninjago will be mine. So fast forward as you get towards the end of this, Ultraviolet pops up. Ultraviolet is in a distance behind the forest, and she's standing on some rocky outcropping because you can see the tops of the trees. She sees this blast, this purplish type blast that is going up. Garmadon, he's got his powers back. Hops down the tree onto a motorcycle, flies back to some sort of temple. And she reaches out to this individual called Lord Malgra. Says, hey, Garmadon's returned. This is going to be a problem for us. And the guy asks her, this new lord says, are your loyalties still with Garmadon? She said, no. And then he says, well, the sons of Garmadon are no longer. But the red crows shall fly forever. And that's the end of it. That's the end of the first episode, the first comic book, the first whatever story. It's well done, in my opinion. For $4, I like this. The artwork is great. Obviously, if you're a Ninjago fan, you are going to get a lot more deeper into it than your average person. Maybe the average person doesn't pick these up. Here's my thing. You don't have to be a Ninjago fan to enjoy comic books. Not at all. I used to read comic books when I was a kid, more of along the lines of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, stuff like that. I never got big into the other superhero type stuff, but I like this. There's something about it that is just different. And look, it's promoting reading. This is the teacher in me coming out. It's promoting reading. It doesn't matter whether you read it, your kids read it, you read it to your kid, you read it together and discuss it. My son and I do. With a lot of things. We watch different shows and have a discussion. We read different things, have a discussion. So there is that promotion of family time, of learning, of jumping into a fantasy world and just letting go. There's a lot. There's a ton here. Now, as I had mentioned, they do retail for $3.99. This is going to be the first of hopefully a long series to come. Now, I have two questions, and I have my own hypotheses on both of them. The first one, is Garmadon a hero or villain? Those of you that know anything about Garmadon have watched the series, have played with the sets, collected the sets. You have an idea of who he is and what he is. But in the comic, they kind of made mention about him saving Ninjago by sacrificing himself, which he did. And then he was resurrected in season 8/season 9 and then saved Ninjago from the Oni. Without him, it pretty much would not have happened. Hero or villain? Hero or villain? Here was a kid that got bit by a snake and turned to evil. He didn't choose to be evil. He was evil. And then it coursed through his blood for however many years. So my question is he a hero or villain? I mean, you could really go down both paths and make a credible argument for both sides. He's a hero because of these things. He's a villain because of these things. It's really a tough call. He is probably one of the, if not the most polarizing character in the Ninjago franchise. The ninja, they always stand for good, right? We already know that. Wu always stands for good. The bad guys usually always stand for bad. Garmadon, he bounces right there on the edge of both sides. Teeter-totters back and forth. Maybe a little bit good, a little bit more of the, and then back to the bad, the evil side. Hero, villain. What is he? What do you think? So my last question to you is, especially you Ninjago insiders, you've got this new faction here, the Red Crows. By the way, the minifig in the drawing here in the artwork looks incredible. I wish we would have one. I hope we have one in the future. Now, there has been no official statement that says, hey, this is canon material. When I say canon material, I mean, it continues along with the Ninjago show and stuff like that. Is it an offshoot? I don't know. There's some stuff in there that references canon. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's a little branch off to the side. Either way, I really like it. I thought it turned out to be a pretty cool comic book, a pretty cool story, and it's just the beginning. We'll wait and see what happens from here. Anyway, you guys will have to let me know what your thoughts on this are, whether you're a Ninjago fan or not, whether you like the comic book or not. Just let me know your thoughts. I'm curious to know. Hit up the socials, send me an email, wherever. So I want to get into this deep emotional story here, this emotional connection. Now I'm going to try and keep A, myself from getting emotional, and B, trying to make y'all cry. So a week and a half ago, I was at my sister's wedding, one of my younger sister's weddings, and it was great. Weddings are great, right? It's a happy, joyous time. Everybody's having fun, having apple juice, some more than others as I saw. So as I'm making my way around, mind you, I don't live anywhere near there. My family all lives in Pennsylvania, which is northeast 1,400 miles from where I live in Texas. So I don't see family very often. Immediate family, I see immediate family much more than extended family. So I'm there. Everybody's like, hey, how are you? Hey, how are you? Da, 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 da. And having a mom, having a family, people do what? They prop you up. They talk you up. They say, he's doing it. When somebody says, well, how's Matt doing? Well, he's doing this and he's doing that and he's doing great and his family's doing great. And then, of course, the podcast always comes up. Some people were calling it a blog. I'm going to let it slide, right? Some people just don't know. They're not podcast people. Somebody called it a YouTube page. Anyway, so I'm getting around. I'm just kind of chatting to different people, and then other people are coming up to me whom I've never met and said, oh yeah, I've heard about this and it sounds really cool. And I listened to some of it. It was really, really great. And then I get to a couple that my parents have been friends with for as long as I've been alive. Over 38 years. My birthday was last Monday, believe it or not. God, I feel old. Anyway, so with that in mind, I sit down. I was like, hey, how are things going? Talking about their kids that we grew up with and had fun with and stuff like that. She's a nurse. She said, oh yeah, your mom had told me about your blog. She was one of them that called it a blog. Fine. Not a big deal. And I told one of my clients about it. All right. My interest is piqued, not because of you saying, a blog or whatever. Client. What does the word client here mean? Client can mean a number of different things based on the context. And then she told me she's a hospice nurse. I know, get ready. So here's where it comes into play. Her client, who was a gentleman, a young man that was 21 years old. She was at his home, obviously, as hospice nurses are. And she was, doing her stuff or whatever. And I guess this was more of the initial meetings. When I say initial, I guess maybe not the very first, but one of the first few times she was there. He was kind of embarrassed because he was building a Star Wars Lego set. He was actually building, not the Death Star. I can't remember the name of it. Big triangular looking thing. So he was building that, and he's like, I'm kind of embarrassed, because, I'm 21 and you might think it's like a baby thing. She goes, oh, no, not at all. I think it's awesome. Then she mentioned my podcast, my blog. Thanks, Lori. Not my Lori. And so he went and he was listening. Now, this was back in December. She was with him about 6 weeks, I believe, something like that. So this kid, I mean, you're 21, you're a kid, building a Star Wars Lego set, having fun, was afraid that he would look like a child in her eyes, like it was something embarrassing, and it should never be. And I've been there. Sometimes you're like, oh, I feel weird, like I'm building Lego, it's a toy. Doesn't matter. Do you? Be happy. She and him chatted, or he and her chatted about shows that I had done and stuff like that. And this is tough. He told her, I wish I was alive longer to be able to enjoy more of it. Y'all, what do you say to that? I was just like, I started crying at that point, and I'm not crying right now, but I am definitely feeling those emotions flood back. A 21-year-old kid. Hey, I wish I had more time. Build Lego. Listen to that. Spend more time with family. Whatever. And it just affected me in a way that I have never felt. I've not had close family pass away in my lifetime. And I'm not trying to bring this down. Just very few individuals. I've had a lot of friends in the military pass away. Sad times. I'll never forget it. But there was something about this that was like, it touched me on more than one level. Like, okay, Go live your life. Be happy. Try and be happy. And he did get his Lego set finished. She actually helped him the last few days that he was doing it. Not his last few days, but the last few days that he was working on it. And I had to share this story with y'all. 4 years into this, I just needed to share it. Sad? Yeah. But there's a lot to gain from this, for sure. I did. Most definitely I did. And so I don't know his name. Obviously his family lives in Pennsylvania somewhere. If they're listening to this, I'm blown away. I'm blown away by your son's thoughts at end of life. Just blown away. So with that is where I want you guys to just try and find your happy. I always tell my wife this: find your happy, like it's a thing. It is a thing. Go find your happy. Go get your happy. You can find it. It's there. You might have to look, and you might have to look a long time. Go find your happy, because you really just honestly never know when things can just be done, whether it be in his case or it be on your way home. Go find your happy. Make the most of it. So I hate to bring the show to an end on such a melancholy note, but I think to me, it was a slap in the face. Everybody has their complaints, right? But I'm like, if I can do something, if you can do something to make someone else's life better, do it. You have that power. Anyway, so we've got a few things that we're working on. I was expecting to have this show up last week, like I had mentioned, but things kept taking forever to get here in the mail. And it is what it is. So unfortunately, we didn't have that special show last week. It is today. It got pushed till today. We'll be back with news on a Tuesday. There are some things to discuss. And later this month, we will be brushing into the world of Jurassic World, hopefully with Tom Jurassic, if not the end of this month, early May. And we've got some other things lined up as well. Sets that you definitely want to keep your eye on here in the next few weeks. So with that in mind, I'm going to get out of here. Hope you all have a lovely day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. Until we meet again, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.